and he's not too good, so it's kind of hype for him. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I mean, that was going to be my next question, just what led to this. So it was more support of Winsome than an attack on Ayla. Either way, awesome stuff. Love it. Love the banter. So in that game, this was the first time since LCS started that we've seen a Garen. What was that about? Was that something you guys have been cooking up? Is somebody saying like, oh, I got cheesed by this in solo queue, it's so good against Cassante? Like, walk me through that one.
I'm pretty sure it started from Moose Hater in NA Challenger League, and that's where everyone started playing it. It actually has a pretty good matchup into Cassante, and as you can see this game, he was like running him down on side lane, and every time we get a kill with his ult now, the Garen ult, we told Someday to scream Demacia in voice comms. So keep an eye out for when that releases. You guys can tune in on the EG YouTube channel to catch that. That's pretty funny.
That was incredible. So this game was very back and forth. You know, it looked really good for you guys in the beginning. You had super huge control over the game after that third dragon, but it started to slip away when they stole the Baron. So what was going through the comms? You know, how was the team feeling once it seemed like you started losing control? They started taking over the map.
We just had to kind of slow down a little bit, be more clear in comms, because in that Baron, I think it's very easy for Gragas, Varus together to burst it, and it should be hard in theory for Sejuani to get a good steal in. I think we did a poor job at saying when we're going to burst it, what moment. Maybe we can look for Varus ult to CC the Sejuani like we did the second attempt when we were able to get it. So I think it's a good play. We just were a bit too wild in the comms and we didn't really listen to each other or say the right things. But we knew that our comp was good. Azir was like pumping against 2 tanks and he was doing a lot of DPS. I did get a little bit scared when Jojo got kind of caught out at the end, but he was able to press stopwatch and we wiped them. So that felt good.
Yeah, I mean, awesome game, very well played. Glad you were able to win that ego battle. And yeah, we're going to toss it to a break now, and up next is TL versus TSM. Thank you, Vulcan.
Thank you.
Hello and welcome to another NA Talent Update. Kicking things off, we had the NACL Qs last weekend, and Maryville University actually took the first qualifiers. So, shout out to the school kids. Speaking of, we had a lot of movement between LCS and Challengers last week, so let's send it to Professor Magical to see how he graded the newcomers.
What is it? Can't you say I'm busy?
We had some exchange students submit some last-minute work.
Fine. Wow, better than me. Ziggy? I thought he retired.
Oh, that's Diplex. Hey, look here. Across the 6 games, he's got the second highest damage share.
All right. You know what? He gets an A. Oh, Spawn! My old student!
Oh, he's actually looked pretty good this past weekend. He was struggling a bit in LCS, but now he gets to play with his old teammates, XU, Insanity, who they made to Proving Grounds finals last summer with, actually.
Spawn gets a B+ then. Win some!
Oh, this is a great one. He, ever since Jamie was this monster, they've gone 4-0, and it looked like a brand new team.
A+!
He's not actually a doctor. He's just esports certified. And on that topic, certain orgs are certifiably killing it this split. But how well has Rafa been paying attention?
Previously. Rocker, have you seen how good FlyQuest are doing?
Of course. They're like #1 in the league right now, dude.
Not LCS. FlyQuest Challengers. Check this out. With Ayla finally here, Winsome's in and can shot call for the team. On top of that, Masu the Wi-Fi wizard is finally in LA, and he's looking incredible.
Hey, Golden Guardians. They're on a hot streak too.
You mean like 7-game win streak, Golden Guardian?
Come on, challenge. Check this out. In the last 3 weeks, Golden Guardians challengers are 9-3. Their rookie Young has gained a lot of confidence after his LCS appearance, and Prismo and Array are really doing better in their sophomore split.
So, only the top LCS teams have good challengers.
Well, Dignitas aren't second.
And did you see? XU played in Italy.
But the Challengers teams aren't the only ones impressing us this split, as some of the provisional teams have really stepped up their game. So to commemorate that, we're happy to introduce a brand new product hitting store shelves soon.
Now that's what I call provisional. 6 of NA's hottest new superstars with smash hits like Moose Haters, Karen on the Wayward Son, Just when you're minute-defying tracks like Mini. Stay fresh. And for a limited time, playoffs Gamsu. Battle don't know if it's true, but I'm feeling calm too. Get some of the best provisional teams to top the NACL charts. Order today.
Well, that's it for this week's NA Talent Update. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, may your week be filled with positive gaming experiences.
Listen up, tell me the truth.
Hello and welcome back to This or That with Movie and Jack, presented by Verizon. Fresh off one of the best games of the split.
That was a good one.
EG and FlyQuest, that was great.
Ayla Vulcan payoff. Good stuff.
Vulcan gets the trash talk for so long now. It's actually insane. Let's get to the slides.
Yeah, 6 slides today, this or that. Aurelion Sol takeaway. Team should be slamming it or it needs more time to cook. Here's the chef.
I think they should be slamming it. It has two things that increase in scaling max health damage, and one of them is an execute.
Yeah, I think Palafox has slammed it twice. He first picked it today. He is the best one at stacking whatever it is you stack. Stardust, yeah. It's like the Senesol, where the good players are already good at min-maxing it, and like the other players are not. So yeah, team should be slamming it. I think we're gonna.
It's not very complicated to stack, by the way.
It's gonna eventually
execute stuff with your singularity. Breathe on people.
Watch Bjergsen's game. He wasn't doing it. Slide number 2. On this or that. Which bot duo is harder to play in pro?
Xayah and Rakan or Aphelios and Thresh? What is harder to play?
Yeah.
I feel like it is harder to play Aphelios Thresh because Aphelios does not have the ult get out of jail free card. That being said, it is pretty difficult in setting up those godlike play caller moments for Xayah. Looking at just the AD carry side of it, Rakan is a bit more dangerous to play.
Yeah, I
think like this one. I think like this one's more difficult.
Yeah, he thinks that is more difficult. Sorry to start checking second slide. I think this with Xayah is more difficult just because it's not as strong in lane. You need to play on slimmer margins, and then the engages are snapped. Whereas Stretch just kind of gets a slow lead. It's like.
So you think it's easier to just lock yourself in place and throw out your death sentence?
Yeah.
And hope for the best?
Yeah. Like throwing something is easier than like flying towards something.
Okay. Rakan head first.
Slide number
It's way more difficult.
We're done with this one.
Next slide. More overrated. This is from Amuz. Thank you. By the way, if you leave a comment in YouTube, you might be up here with
And I heard a producer note. I don't know, it's kind of a cowardly take. He says he doesn't think either of these players is overrated. He didn't want to make that clear. But he wants to know which is more overrated.
Okay. If in this theoretical world, one of these players were overrated, which one would it be, chat? Vikla or Spica?
It's Spica.
I think Vikla for sure. Are you freaking kidding me? Do you see that last game, the early game with Talia?
Listen,
Spica is the god!
One of these players is more overrated, but
it's more relative. One of them has to be more overrated than the other. They can't be tied.
Is more relatable. He talks more on Twitter, so people are just going to have a more favorable opinion of him on general, so he's more likely to be overrated.
Vikla is getting topped up so much by people thinking LCK, godlike, but he has had a lot of bad games.
This last one.
Spica, though.
They both lost. Slide number or something. Do you agree with Double Lift? Sad results need to fix our early game to even have a chance of playing, or there is more to diagnose.
I definitely think that they need to fix early game first to have a chance of playing. That's what comes first, though. Of course, there's also more to diagnose.
So a lot of times in this or that, I want to say both, but you have to pick one.
This will be
so
real quick.
Would they actually, is this the most important thing, or is the rest of it?
I'm going to go with yes. I'm going to go with fix that early game right now because it is looking horrendous.
Yeah.
That's all I got. I said, yep.
Next slide, baby.
Prince gets traded to T1, who is a stronger MVP candidate. Cloud9, Fudge, Golden Guardians River, EG Vulcan. That was a pretty sick. He's had a lot of good Thresh games.
Fudge.
Fudge?
Yeah. MVP is the whole split. I thought his week 1 was incredible. Their
behind FlyQuest, only 1 game back. We got 2 games back for Golden Guardians. River has been good, but I just think compared to other top players, Fudge is just head and shoulders above the rest.
It's pretty good. I would say River's got a very good case for himself as well, doing so much for Golden Guardians. A lot of their games, they had to rely on him to be able to get to that big win streak and get into the conversation at the top.
You know, last week the player of the week, it was 5 votes before River and Gory. I don't know why River. I voted River. You know, I understand. All right, slide number 6. I understand where you're at. This or that, another YouTube slide by Turd Boy. Apparently,
Turd Boy is a regular.
Slides. He's a regular. This, TSM, or that, Team Liquid Honda, more likely to make it to spring playoffs. They're tied in the standings.
Woo, man.
And they play now.
I'm going to go TSM, honestly. I know you have some bias going on here for both of these orgs. How do you decide? You worked for Team Liquid, and you kind of almost worked for TSM.
I mean, it depends on if you believe the conspiracy theories. It's a weird thing. I'm going to say Team Liquid Honda because the theme of
because
this
they actually paid you.
Is the early game. Their early game is much better. That becomes more relevant as the season progresses and
so
teams
back
are
to
able
the
to
double
fix some of
lift
their
slide.
issues.
We got a theme emerging.
Yep, and they beat Golden Guardians yesterday. Did TSM do that? No, they didn't. So they're on a hot streak.
Fair enough.
That's a wrap for this or that. Remember to send your suggestions in the YouTube comments. 2 of them got used on this one out of 6. Maybe we'll get more next time.
What's up, gamers? Azale and I are in for our last 2 games of the day. One thing though,
Maybe we crashed. Maybe you're Turd Boy. Maybe you've been highlighted.
No, you can't
Are you
side
Turd
with.
Boy?
Don't worry about it. Well, one thing I do agree on is Team Liquid Honda might have a better chance than TSM going to the playoffs because, especially looking at the state of their wins, they are
biased. The stats show they are equivalent. Come on, Rafa.
Well, but hear me out though. A lot of the early games they had have been some of the most dominant early games than almost any other team in the league. It's just if you're stuck like closing out those games, and I know you've been a big proponent of no more Lucianami, guys. Just you need to try something else at this point.
And here's the thing, it's always funny to me because people are more likely to overlook late game issues than they are early game issues, right? So people are going to say, oh, well, if you have a good early game, surely you just have to do better in the late game and then you win. But I think that's actually the more complicated part of the game to fix. There's more factors going on.
Yeah.
And if you're creating those leads by picking champions that you can't close out games with, it's artificially inflating your early game, right? And I think that's kind of what TL has been doing with Lucian Nami. They're actually winless on that pick. That is their most played duo. They've been very good in the 2v2, but unable to close games with it. So, it's one of those things where, if you pick early game, you have to be at a lead, and sometimes you have to be an even bigger lead than we've been seeing to be able to close it out. We did see them yesterday, though, bring out the Varus, which has actually been banned out by TSM. Rebellio's getting banned out as well. So TL, I don't think would be going back to it. It feels like it's pretty easy Zeri first pick on blue side if they want to go towards what we've been seeing a lot of in the LCS. But I just think that Lucian Nami, needs to be a thing of the past. Unless you're playing it at the absolute elite level, it is not worth the pick Vampire.
Well, Team Liquid don't feel the need to lock in their marksman at the moment. That Space Dragon is the phrase right now, and Harry had a pretty damn good performance on it yesterday.
He did. I mean, if you can get towards the later stages of the game, you really can take over. This thing scales out of control. The damage, I think, is far too high in the later stages of the game. The ultimate becomes like an entire screen. The champion is incredibly strong. So a lot of people, though, when you talk about it being OP, will be quick to point out, oh, well, there's answers to it. You can play Victor. You can play these different things that can outrage it and harass it in lane and, scale alongside it. I want to see if anyone can really punish it. I don't know if Maple's going to be the guy to do it because Maple is really not a lane-focused player.
Sure.
He is much more about how he moves around the map, how he actually facilitates his teammates, and I think he has been having a very good season quietly for TSM. He did bring out, AP Galio yesterday. It was not going to win for them, I don't believe, but it's one of those things where I still think he's the guy to really punish the scaling pick.
Yeah. like you said, Talia has been one of those big picks as well, which was something that Team Liquid took away right from straight out of the gate. It was the pick that he also had when they got that big upset over FlyQuest a couple weeks ago. Like you called out earlier, it is going to be the Zeri Lulu for Yon and Core. And for longtime amateur and challenger fans, everyone knows that when Zeri first came out, Yon had this big flip on social media and Twitter of him just chopping off on Zeri and zooming around the map. Obviously, the champion has been toned down in the glory days, but this is a champion that Yon is no stranger to and can't wait for.
Well, and that was the pea shooter clip where he was turbo behind and he's just doing 0 damage and like 10 minutes to kill them. But no one can catch him, and he eventually kills the whole team. And he actually has nearly 82% of zeros on Zeri. Goes to that Ant Academy. The guy is very, very adept at the champion. I feel like this style does fit them more. Wait, his dog is named Tesla? Okay, he has to clarify. After the adventure, not the car. He's like, come on, guys. Yeah, I think that is. Egg and avocado toast is undefeated. Well, he's not going to be able to afford a house. That's the only downside.
Damn, egg donks are massive. I remember I couldn't find Carton the other day, and you were like, I don't know if you made fun of me or you're just like, no, I got eggs over. You need eggs.
No, man, it's actually been strange. There hasn't been a lot of eggs around. But Kindred getting banned out. It wasn't first round banned by Pioshik, but still he's been banned, I think, all against Team Liquid so far this split. So very much so getting respect for that champion that he is really well known for. That's his namesake. Pioshik meaning Mark, I believe, in Korean. So that is where that does come from. But a couple of jungle bans have already been thrown his way, at least obviously in the first round. As well as the Wukong. Trying to push him down that tier list a little bit. You already have some pretty good hyper carries though, so it's not like they really even need to have a carry jungler. You can just go towards Sejuani, play something kind of standard, boring, play frontline. You already have a hyper-scaling AD and a hyper-scaling mid laner. Yeah. So I don't really think he's that bothered in this situation that he can't actually play something like Kindred. Yeah. I don't really feel like it fits him that well anyway.
TSM also don't really have strong diving threats other than this Vi, but most of the time, if you are going to pair a Vi on your team, then you're going to need to have something either from your mid lane, like Kari, which can't be the case with Spinner's level on him. So now you're looking for Solo, but Solo has not really played any of the diving champions in the past games. It's mostly been tank duty, and this Nocturne, that's
Yeah, very, very interesting that they're actually going to grab the Nocturne for themselves. So I do think they're going to have to draft some sort of a dive buddy for him in the top lane. Obviously, later in the game, Harry can be kind of going in there, throwing the ultimate in the back line with that Nocturne.
Yeah.
And on the other side, I'm actually really interested to see that it is going to be a Syndra coming out for Maple. I talked about how he is not the lane dominant player, that's not his style. This is actually the first time he'll play Syndra in the LCS. Right, career-wise, obviously he'll have some games on it. The guy's been playing since the very, very beginning.
Yep.
And does in fact have his fourth or fifth most played career-wide. So has 34 games played on it, but no games on it this split, no games on it last split, so no games in his time in the LCS. And is going to be playing this pick, which does require him to really bully his opponent. If you actually just trade farm against Aurelion Sol, you are getting nothing done on the Syndra. And actually, well, I mean, it's not a super tanky team for TL, but it is a relatively low damage composition on TSM. So if Turtle or Maple are having bad games, I think they are going to really, really struggle, because then all that happens, if you're playing essentially what becomes a one threat, if Maple or Wild Turtle are having a bad game, the carry that is fed is going to get Nocturne ulted in every single fight and just have, Aurelion Sol throwing the ult down on your head. And even if you survive that, if you're not doing damage, the rest of your team is going to be getting shredded by the A-Soul, getting shredded by this area, and that's kind of that problem, because it is Scion, it is Karma, it is Vi. There's not going to be a lot of consistent damage coming out from those other roles here.
The big concern for me is that Aurelion Sol ultimate combo with Nocturne, because normally you can dodge it when you have vision. But Nocturne turns out all the lights, and suddenly a giant star has fallen upon your head and crashed everything on top of it as well. The other big thing for TSM is picking this Vi always feels like a burden, because you have to do it in order to get some type of single target lockdown on the Zeri in the late game. Yeah. But there's no one else that's a real dive buddy for the side of TSM. So every time Buki's going in, it doesn't really feel like a complete dive mission. It's like, hey, I'm gonna prevent Yon from doing damage for like 2 seconds. Good luck, guys.
Yeah, I think they're gonna have to hope that Yon isn't that far back, and that Vi can go in. You can follow up with something like a Scatter of the Week, like an Ezreal all over the top. Get the damage in that way.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. Yon is positioned appropriately, and especially if Core is there with him. There's gonna be the Lulu ult. There's gonna be Lulu heal. Lulu's also playing heal, so a little bit of extra damage is not gonna be enough for Bookie, especially in the late game, to be able to actually 100 to 0 this guy. So that could definitely be a difficulty. When I look at the composition, though, I think a lot of the reason that you're actually playing this Vi is to focus on Harry in the mid lane. When you're going to play Vi Syndra, you better hope you smack this Asol in mid lane, or you are going to have problems later on in the game.
Yep, gives them a little bit of a clock. Team Liquid, quite the contrast in what we have obviously seen from their first round robin of play, where it has been so early game dominant.
Yep.
But as we discussed before, time to flip the script here, try to practice scaling compositions here.
Well, and it is worth mentioning that they have had some scaling, right? Harry had actually been playing almost only Azir. Like, that was his most played, so I don't think him going to April is that big of a change. It really does feel like largely it's just a bit of a shift in the bot lane away from the Lucian Nami, which has been so hard to execute. They did win the one Lucian Stone game, but that was 1 out of 5 or 6 Lucian games that they have actually been able to take down, so has not really been working for them. It's just way easier to execute on some of these other comps, right? Lucian not only has to play hyper aggressive, but you have to put yourself in danger to actually be able to execute on these fights, which means you have to be playing really on that knife's edge.
Yeah.
Champions like he played yesterday, such as the Varus, are a lot more forgiving. You can sit back and poke. Zeri can kind of scale. You have a lot more safety to be able to have that additional range. When you have lethal tempo stacked up, this guy has like 900 range on his Q.
The other thing too for Team Liquid, as we are in a pause, get through it as soon as possible. No updates on what that pause is.
Yeah, we saw Solo talking to the ref on stage, so I'm assuming that it is TSM pause. I'm assuming that it is a solo issue. You can see him turned over, so he either is trying to find out what it is, or maybe having a bit of an issue with his PC. As soon as we get an update, we will let you guys know what exactly would be going on. Turtle also, if you missed the game yesterday, is in for TSM this weekend. So that is a bit of a change up. And one that you were talking about, a lot of the NHL guys seem surprised.
Yeah, there's no surprise that, especially if we've been watching Challengers League for the past few weeks, while Turtle's performance has been kind of hit or miss, most of the time it has been on the miss side as well. And when Chowie, first released that video in match yesterday, they said that they wanted to look for someone that was going to step up in laning phase when they're going up against FBI and Yon, who have been more of the dominant laners here in the LCS, and they felt that between Neo and Wildturtle proved to be a better laner. Most of us on the Challengers League broadcast don't feel the same way, but obviously we're not the coach, and so we're not going to have the same insight, and maybe during that set of 2v2 trials, they felt that Wildturtle was a better choice. But yesterday, I don't know if that made that much of a difference.
No, I wouldn't really say it did. But it is tough, right? Because as you say, we're not actually privy to all the scrims. We're not watching all those games. But we do have an update for you. It is an audio issue that Solo is having on stage. So while they're trying to work through that, we will just be sitting here and chatting with you. Hopefully it won't be a long one. Hopefully he's going to be pretty ready to go. Looks like he's getting kind of focused up, facing back towards his monitor. So maybe going to be ready to go here in a second. But both of these teams, it's a pretty important game for them, as we are getting relatively deep into this season. And, the magic number generally to make playoffs is 9 wins. That's usually where you have to get to. We have seen teams, I think, once or twice ever make it at 8 and 10 when there was a 16 playoff format. So it is possible to make it with 8. But we've also seen, I believe it was Team Envy, miss with 9 and 9 in the past. So it's also possible to win 9. But generally speaking, you need 9 wins. They're both sitting at 5 and 7. So that does mean, from here, it's not that easy of a result. 500 team, and you've essentially got to go 4 and 2 in your last stretch to have a decent chance of making playoffs. And that means it's almost a must win. Not mathematically, but you're getting there.
Especially with strength of schedule for teams that they haven't played, like Team Liquid next week, FlyQuest.
Yeah.
That's a big one where people are already counting Team Liquid out and saying, FlyQuest. So you cannot. You gotta make sure that on the wins that seem more competitive, with games that are more competitive, seems like audio issues have been resolved for all players on stage, so we resume the game. Crossing fingers that no other pauses happen.
Yep, audio issues are all good to go for now. And we'll have to see, how this bot lane is going to go. Wild Turtle playing PTA. It is kind of more that lane-focused look. If you can actually hit the Q, people can push forward, try to actually block that PTA. It can be really powerful in the all-ins, and Time is playing Comet and Ignite. You know, you talked about Chawi mentioning focus on being coming in, so it makes sense that they are going to this more lane-focused setup here with this 2v2. And there's kind of the two approaches to that, really. You can be playing these lanes where you're looking to roam, and you're looking to sit back and just kind of chill. But when you are playing as Ezreal Karma, and especially with this rune setup, you're looking to hard shove, you're looking to non-stop poke, and make life difficult for your opponents. And, you know, the reason that it's so important to have this shove is that once you have your opponents under the tower there, all the melee minions, all the range minions are gone.
Yep.
Every time they step up to actually CS, it's just free fire for that poke. It makes it so easy to predict where they're going to be. So they have to either choose A, do I take the poke, or B, do I miss the CS? Yep. It's kind of that lose-lose situation that you can put the Jerry Lulu in if you can dominate the show.
Yep, and then it's a domino effect as well, because the more pressure you put on the bot lane and the tower, the less freedom they have to be able to respond to any aggressive move from Boozy as well. If you want to invade to the bottom side, get some counter vision down, or get some counter jumping in as well. Against Pioshik. There's already Pioshik clearing towards the top side. Might be playing around Summit as Nara into the Zion matchup. And usually the way this plays out, I mean, you always have the extreme you know, if Nar is not snowballed, then I mean, Sion's just going to start struggling it off.
Yeah, absolutely. You can start to really just ignore that damage. You know, for Pioshik, I think, you know, as the Nocturne, you'll take gank opportunity. If someone is in a really bad spot or really overpushed, you can kind of show up behind them. You can maybe force a flash or maybe even kill them. But generally speaking, unless their opponents are really in a bad spot or you have to fix a wave, you just want to power farm. You want to get to 6 as fast as possible. You want to cycle your camps and really look to threaten with that ultimate. And then it's rinse and repeat. You're trying to, every single time your ulti is up, find a kill, immediately get it on the map, find that ultimate target, get something with that, then right back to farming and just kind of play that cycle. And the more closely you can do that, the better of a situation you're going to be in. Chime getting really low here, though. He has been taking the worst end of these trades. You know, Turtle, it feels like it's been so focused on actually pushing the wave, and it's been kind of almost this support battle between Chime and Core on the side. Yeah. But Chime was using his shields on Turtle, and Core was using his shields on himself. So he was actually taking a lot of free damage there where he was hitting into Core's shield. So, you know, Core and Yon, again, doing a good job in these 2v2s. That has been, I would say, one of Liquid's great strengths.
Does allow Wild Turtle to get a back in, at least a tier and a long sword, so it's not the dream tier Sheen Max. Probably would have had to lane for a little bit more longer.
It is also interesting because this is like a much less aggressive take, and if you're trying to play this lane actually to win it and not just kind of farm it out, you can just go straight Sheen, right? And that's what a lot of players will do, is actually delay their tier for more of a spike in lane. Yeah. In this case, he's not going to do that. We'll see if Summit can get out of this one.
Waiting for the flash to come through. Solo gets it. Summit is now playing without a flash, but as long as his hop cooldown is available, he should not be in danger from Boogie to make a return to him.
Yeah, the danger is going to be if he goes for a Q flash and he connects on that, right? Because Boogie didn't really waste much time. He goes up there first, he's going to catch up to Pioshik pretty quickly as far as available. And then you can look at that rinse and repeat where you know your flash, you have Solo's flash, you have Boogie's flash. So what it's going to do at the very least is force someone to play more defensively, and generally you just kind of play aggressive in these matchups to really create leads. Someone is known for just destroying people in these 1v1s, especially when he gets his hand on Gnar. He is so adept at actually pushing the pace in these lanes, but it does often mean exposing himself, and that's when he can fall prey to ganks.
I mean, this is what we knew him for back in last year's spring, just dominating lanes on Gnar, such like. And we know that people have been trying to capitalize on the aggressiveness that he would show as well.
Absolutely. One change-up that I actually really liked that I haven't talked about yet from TL yesterday